Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast, your place for all your filthy casual takes on the world of sports, for you filthy casual sports fans out there like you and me. I'm your host, Dylan Lasagna, and this is episode number 251. And this episode, we're here to talk about Super Bowl 59, and yeah, that game that happened this past weekend, in a game where we all thought the inevitable was going to happen. Yes, the inevitable result that had been brewing up for the past however many months, 6, 7, 8 months. A result that we've all been waiting for since July, but instead, a completely different result reared upon us this past Sunday, and we're here to talk about it in this episode for all you filthy casual fans out there that ended up not watching the Super Bowl for one reason or another. So we're here to talk about that completely different result that happened over the past weekend here in this brand new episode of Very Cold Lasagna, as we're fresh off of the Super Bowl. So, yeah, before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping before we get the ball rolling. Make sure you continue to tune into the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast, however you listen to it, whether it's on audio, on Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, or if you're watching this on YouTube. And if you are watching this on YouTube, I appreciate the support on there. And make sure you smash the like button. And if you're not already, smash the subscribe button and subscribe. And your support would mean the world to me if you do. And leave your comments down below with your own filthy casual takes on the topic at hand. That being Super Bowl 59 between the teams being the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, and everything that happened in that game. Of course, we'll be talking about it in this episode, and we'll be talking about a couple other things like the commercials, the halftime show, all that good stuff. You can leave your takes about those things as well. And as always, share this with your friends, share this with your neighbors, share this with the stranger, share this with your colleagues, whether it's at work or school. Share the good, the bad, the ugly about this filthy casual podcast entitled Very Cold Lasagna. And of course, follow me on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Very Cold Lasagna as well. So that being said, let's talk about this rather interesting Super Bowl. And I don't mean like, oh, this is an exciting game and all that. It was what happened in the Super Bowl. Because when I previewed this Super Bowl in the last episode, I mean, we were all expecting the inevitable. We were all expecting the four little words. No, not the three little words that, for all my WWE fans out there, the little Dominic Mysterio, Liv Morgan love couple is all expecting. The three little words that want to hear from Dominic Mysterio say to Liv Morgan out on WWE TV. No, not those three little words. It's the little mantra, the four little mantra that I've been basically given the Kansas City Chiefs to cap off this rather predictable 2024 NFL season. And that was eat, sleep, conquer, three-peat. That was basically an indication of, well, how things were going to go in this Super Bowl. Yes, they are taking on a Philadelphia Eagles team that they had a talented roster, but this Eagles team was basically going to be going in to a practical handicap match. That's basically my prediction for this game, because why? The Eagles were not just going up against the Chiefs themselves, they were going up against ref ball shenanigans, Roger Goodell, the Swifties, basically the entire world. The entire world was up against the Philadelphia Eagles in a practical handicap match. So that's basically what I foresaw and what many people are foreseeing going into this Super Bowl. That's why, I'll be honest with you, not many people were that excited to watch this Super Bowl, unless you were obviously a Chiefs fan or an Eagles fan, pretty much. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't really hear or see a lot of media attention towards this Super Bowl. And that's pretty disappointing. And I get it. It's a rematch. But funny enough, even with past Super Bowl rematches, there's still plenty of media attention towards those Super Bowl rematches. Like even last year had a good amount of media attention. Even a couple of years ago with the Patriots and the Eagles, that had a good amount of media attention. But yet this one, it didn't because, well, almost everyone knew what to expect. And almost everyone knew the inevitable. But then we get to the actual game. And as if, well, almost everyone but the Eagles understood the motto. And I think, maybe, just maybe the Eagles was definitely the hero. Maybe the Philadelphia Eagles was the hero that, well, the hero that everyone really needed. I get at least for that night. So when you look at this game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles, like I said, the Eagles were in a practical handicap match, and it was clear as day. Looking at it from the Eagles' perspective first, it was clear as day the Eagles were going to be in a practical handicap match because on their very first possession, I mean, it didn't take long for the Eagles to be subject to ref ball bullshit. It didn't take long for pretty much everybody to call out the refs for their ref ball shenanigans, to be on their butts to see that, they're going to be in favor of the Chiefs. Because on an early key 4th and 2, on one of the game's very first fourth down, on the very first 4th down in the game, A.J. Brown made a successful catch on a very nice, successful lob catch from Jalen Hurts. But yet, he was called for offensive pass interference when there wasn't really a lot of substantial evidence that Brown even pushed off or he did anything to make it offensive pass interference. Like, even the likes of Tom Brady and the Fox rules analyst, Mike Pereira, they even said that no pass interference should have been called. And so when Rod Herbert and his gang still said, pass interference on the Eagles, that went to show that, okay, it's going to be this kind of game, huh? So the Eagles had the punt, and they gave possession to Kansas City. But fortunately for Philadelphia, it didn't really affect them because they started to show how pissed off they were. They got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense off the field very quickly, and that became the theme of the game. So meanwhile, going back to work for Philadelphia's offense, I'd say Jalen Hurts, he did a pretty good job early in the game, especially in the passing game, because when you looked at how Saquon did in the running game, the Chiefs did a relatively good job early and often locking him down in the running game, because that was one of the keys to victory that I had for Kansas City. You have to limit how much room of opportunity that Saquon was going to have as a runner, and by limiting Saquon, it was going to force Jalen Hurts to throw the ball more from Nick Sirianni. He was going to have Nick Sirianni call upon Jalen Hurts to throw it more. And, well, pretty much that's exactly what Jalen Hurts did. And he answered the call, that being Jalen Hurts. So Jalen Hurts did a pretty good job in the passing game, throwing some nice short yard passes to Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, his main go-to guys. But he did have a really bad pressure ball in the second quarter, and he got picked in the red zone by Brian Cook. But nonetheless, I still say even with that mistake, he still did relatively good. But in that situation, though, he should have just threw it away out of bounds, even if there's still pressure in his face. I believe it was by Nick Bolton. But he's fortunate that his defense prevented Mahomes and company from doing anything else with that turnover. But when you get to the rest of this game for Philadelphia, they started to take complete control of the game midway in the second quarter when the rookie, Cooper DeJean. And I feel like this is where things really started to go in their favor. And that was the defense. Cooper DeJean, the standout corner, pick six Patrick Mahomes on, I believe it's like near midfield. And he ran that thing back to the house. And all of a sudden it was 17-0 in their favor. And I was just thinking to myself, are we dreaming here? Are we dreaming here? Because before that point, it was 10-0. And I was just thinking, okay, it's 10-0. And we know when it comes to Super Bowls, when Patrick Mahomes is down 10-0, well, we know how the script goes from here. But no, the Eagles burned that script, and Cooper DeJean picked six that thing to the house, and it was 17-0 in their favor. Then much later, Zach Bond, the linebacker, hauled in another pressure-induced Mahomes interception, and then Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown followed it up, cashed it in 2 plays later to put up 7 more on the board. And all of a sudden, you're looking at Philadelphia. They're playing pretty good football, actually great football in the first half, pressuring up Mahomes. They sacked him multiple times, got 2 interceptions out of him, and you're looking at a score of 24-0 once halftime rings the bell. And if they continue to dominate like that, it was going to be a swift ass whooping, a swift kick in the butt of payback in favor of Philadelphia. And that's exactly what happened as the rest of the game rolled on, because the story was more of the same in the second half. You didn't really see anything else new in terms of what else happened for the rest of the game when it came to the Eagles, because Jalen Hurts pretty much extinguished the Chiefs' devil magic for good with a 46-yard bomb to Devontae Smith that put the Eagles up 34-0 late in the third quarter. And pretty much the rest was just window dressing for Philadelphia, putting the last finishing touches on their Super Bowl victory, with Jake Elliott putting the finishing touches with a couple of field goals on some short yardage situations, as the Eagles, they got the redemption from 2 years ago against Kansas City in a big way. By that point in the game, it was 40-14 before Mahomes and company added on another garbage time touchdown. But nonetheless, the final score wasn't indicative of how the Eagles were putting on the butt whooping of a lifetime on Mahomes and the Chiefs. So, speaking of the Chiefs and how they did in this game, looking at from their side of things, probably the worst of the bunch of their Super Bowl performances. Probably, I'd say even worse than how they did like a couple years ago in their last lopsided loss against Tom Brady and the Bucs. That was even, I'd say that loss, this loss is even worse than how they did 3 years ago against Brady and the Bucs. Because Patrick Mahomes, he had a fully healthy roster this time around. He had his fully healthy offensive line. He had a fully healthy receiving core. Yet they didn't. No one did particularly well in this game. But looking at from the start of the game for Mahomes and the Chiefs, from their side of things, Mahomes struggled in the first 2 drives because his offensive line couldn't hold up the pressure of Philly's defensive front. Meanwhile, looking at the Chiefs' defense, they are struggling to limit Jalen Hurts' short yard passing game. Like, if you can contain that, then just imagine how much they were struggling to stop the explosive long bombs that Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith were eventually going to throw at them later on. Like, that was just bad. That was just really, really bad. Even with the big break that they got with the second quarter interception that Nick Bolton forced out of Jalen Hurts, it wasn't enough. Like, Mahomes and the offense couldn't get anything out of it because the offensive line couldn't give their quarterback time to throw, nor Mahomes could find anyone to throw to, nor could anyone in the receiving corps gain any separation for Mahomes to find, like Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins. Did Rashee Rice even play in this game? Like, no, oh no, there was Juju Schuster and Xavier Worthy. They could barely gain any separation in this game. But one of the main problems with this Chiefs team in this game was the offensive line. The offensive line, they really struggled in this game, and those struggles really hammered home in the second quarter. And when it reared its ugly head, when Mahomes threw that pick six to Cooper DeJean, when Mahomes had to roll right out of the pocket, throwing that pick six, and then someone hit him. Someone hit Mahomes to force that interception to Zach Bond, deep when they were deep in their own territory, deep near their own end zone. And when you get to close to the end of the first half, when they were down 24-0, like, if you're looking at it from a Chiefs fan, those three-peat hopes were starting to go quickly down in flames. And I imagine Andy Reid gave them a good halftime speech, but like, no matter what adjustments they made at halftime, whether it was Matt Nagy or Steve Spagnuolo, Andy Reid himself, I mean, the story didn't change much for them, because it was more of the same. Patrick Mahomes getting repeatedly pressured. He couldn't run out of the pocket. I don't even know if he chose to. He also got sacked even more. He turned the ball over one more time by that relentless Eagles front four. They did have their best series late in the third quarter too, with a touchdown to, I believe it was DeAndre Hopkins. But by that point, it was too late. But they did avoid a shutout. I mean, I guess that counts for something. But by that point, it was already too late. And sure, you cut the score down by what? By what? 22 points? By 22 points with one last garbage time touchdown to Xavier Worthy. So the final score was 40-22, but no way was that indicative of how this game actually went for either the Philadelphia Eagles or the Kansas City Chiefs, but especially for the Kansas City Chiefs, because for a team that was on the verge of making history, they didn't play up to standard. Actually, when you look at it, they were playing like a team that I had basically described in their road to the Super Bowl in the preview. A team that was just basically coasting. A team that was just basically coasting all season long. And, well, when they took a team like the Philadelphia Eagles lightly, who knows? Maybe they didn't, but they looked like a team that looked unprepared to play in this one. So, some other things that I took away from this game, that front four. That front four of Jalen Carter, Brandon Graham, Milton Williams, and Nolan Smith absolutely dominated in this one. Like Vic Fangio's front four, they performed very, very well in this game. And honestly, they should have been, like, all four of them should have been the MVP. And I get Jalen Hurts. I mean, he gets automatic consideration for the Super Bowl MVP because, he's the quarterback. I mean, he played very, very, very well, too, in this game. He had a repeat performance of his NFC Championship game performance a couple weeks ago. And, he just as earned that MVP. But I feel like the bigger story was that front four of the Eagles. Crazy enough that Vic Fangio didn't once call a blitz. He didn't have his guys blitz Patrick Mahomes at all. Like, nor did he need to, because that front four of Carter, Graham, Williams, and Smith, they were just that damn good against that Chiefs inferior offensive line. So speaking of that offensive line of the Kansas City Chiefs, like that was gonna come back to bite them in the butt eventually, because they are having so many issues with being penalized, giving up sacks on Mahomes, like for a majority of the regular season. And eventually they sold out. They sold out against the best defensive line in the NFL. And we'll be talking a little bit more about that offensive line in just a bit. But overall, when you look at this Chiefs team, like Patrick Mahomes' is repeated mistakes, along with the disappearing act of Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, and even Xavier Worthy. Like the supporting cast around Mahomes, pretty much the whole offense, they disappeared. And that's why the Chiefs lost this game and lost their chance at making never before made history. Like when you look at how Travis Kelce did in this game, in a game where he was contemplating retirement before this game, or I don't know if he was then or he is now. I don't know. Either way. But Travis Kelce was a disappearing act in this game. No catches at all in the first half. And DeAndre Hopkins, he dropped a must catch when the Chiefs needed momentum in this game, when the Chiefs were down 24-0 before the end of the first half. And he drops a much needed catch from his quarterback. And he drops it wide open. So as a whole, Kelce and Hopkins, they absolutely failed in this game. They failed to separate from the Eagles' back line of the defense. And Xavier Worthy, I mean, the stat line will say he did fairly well in this game, but his noteworthy production, it came when the game was already decided. Like his 2 touchdowns, it came in garbage time. And that was pretty much that. So when you look at Mahomes and how he did in this game, I mean, he pretty much had to put the whole team on his back because, again, his offensive line sucked. His supporting cast, it also sucked. Mahomes himself was sacked 6 times. He strip sacked on one of them late in the game. And he was pretty much, well, when you look at it as a whole, he was backed into a corner. He was pretty much backed into a corner the whole game, especially with things like starting to crumble down on him with the pick 6. In general, Patrick Mahomes did not play well in this game at all. A couple more things here. Saquon Barkley, he was indeed limited by the Chiefs defense, but in all honesty, when you look at the grand scheme of things, a pretty minor thing for Philadelphia, because like I said, it left the door open for Jalen Hurts in the passing attack to pretty much attack the Chiefs secondary, because that was the key for the Eagles to win this game, for Jalen Hurts to have a repeat performance from the NFC title game. And sure, he took half advantage of the situation because of the defense playing out of their mind, but he also looked good dishing out the explosive plays, the explosive passes to Devontae Smith and getting another touchdown to A.J. Brown. So in essence, Jalen Hurts also played just as well in this game like his defense did. So for his efforts, Jalen Hurts, like I said, would win Super Bowl MVP for his 2 touchdown effort, but also pretty effective performance. But again, I would argue that the entire Eagles front 4, specifically Josh Sweat, should have earned MVP honors for being the bigger difference maker against Patrick Mahomes. Some other non-football related things from this Super Bowl, because, well, other non-football things happened during the Super Bowl, as it had in years past. The Super Bowl halftime show, which was headlined by Kendrick Lamar, I'd say it was okay. I know some people saying it sucked and all that. I mean, there have been far worse Super Bowl halftime shows in years past. But I mean, Kendrick Lamar was, I'd say it's okay, but for whatever reason, it ended so abruptly. Like he had such an abrupt end to it. So I'm not sure what that was all about. Maybe he intended it for that way, but I didn't like how it ended so abruptly. And then the commercials, again, like why are they kind of like cheaping out on the commercials now? There used to be so many memorable commercials back then. Now, not so much. Like the only ones I remember from this year were the Doritos commercial, which had the UFO one, and then there's the Pringles commercial, where it is doing like that AI stuff. Like it was like the mustache was like floating away from all all the celebrities and the athletes. Like it floated away from James Harden, for example, which was pretty freaky. So yeah, that was like kind of scary. But other than that, I was just like, I don't remember any other commercials. Maybe I was just like passing time, doing other stuff, or just like, I don't know. He was doing other things. So overall, when you look at this Super Bowl, yeah, I mean, it's not gonna. I guess you could say it won't be memorable, but I mean, in the sense, it's the ending that most people didn't predict. It's the ending that most people didn't predict. But hey, like at least the conversation won't be, cringeworthy when it comes to sports media, I guess. So now, here we are. With another end to another football season. Another end to a football season where we have to wait 7 more months. 7 more months of waiting for autumn. But the conversations about football at least don't end here on Very Cold Lasagna. For at least there'll still be a little bit of football conversations with like season recaps, season team previews in July, a little bit about the NFL draft. But when it comes to actually watching football, yeah, that'll have to wait until September, unfortunately. And then preseason, of course, August. So another long wait until we have to watch football again. But until then, let's take a look at, what awaits for both of these teams, both of the Super Bowl bound teams this offseason. For the Kansas City Chiefs, well, for them, they have to figure out, how to rebound from this. They were like one game. They were like 4 quarters away from accomplishing what no other team has ever done before. And, well, that was the mantra I gave them. Eat, sleep, conquer, three-peat. Yet, they failed to do that. Not only failed to do that, but they got embarrassed in said attempt to do that. So, they have a lot of questions that they need to address this offseason. And they're going to have to figure out, well, how to overcome the loser's curse of the Super Bowl, while also figuring out, how do we bounce back from, not just being back-to-back champions, but also losing out on making history. So, step 1 of that is addressing the offensive line that cost you this Super Bowl, costing you that point of history. Because this offensive line of Joe Thuney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Jawan Taylor, DJ Humphries, well, pretty much this whole offensive line, they all picked the worst time to have their worst performances with history awaiting them. Now, I'm not, maybe I am saying that they all did bad. Maybe some of them did bad. But in general, when you look at this offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs, they did a piss poor job against that front 4. Trey Smith and DJ Humphries are both unrestricted free agents in a couple weeks. And the Chiefs front office, maybe they will be inclined to upgrade Patrick Mahomes' protection after the way that the offensive line played a role in costing them valuable history of a three-peat. The other thing that they have to consider is the potential retirement of Travis Kelce. I know Kelce has already said, Patrick Mahomes has also noted this as well, right after the Super Bowl loss, that Travis Kelce hasn't made a decision on whether or not he wants to continue playing. Kelce himself, I think he might have noted that he plans to play next fall, regardless of the outcome. But looking at the grander scheme of things, Travis Kelce turns 36 in October. Things can always change on the whim for the tight end that is going to be a certified Hall of Famer. But regardless of whether Travis Kelce stays or retires, the Chiefs should prepare for whatever's to come for Travis Kelce this offseason. And that's by drafting his successor sooner rather than later. And even if Travis Kelce stays, why not have Kelce mentor him in the event that Kelce does eventually retire? Meanwhile, for the new, reigning, defending, undisputed Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, of course, you want to drink it in, man. You want to drink in this Super Bowl redeeming win because, well, Philadelphia, they earned it. For as much as it also pains me to say that because, well, they reside in the conference of the 49ers. So there's that. But regardless, objectively speaking, soak it in. Soak it in because Philadelphia earned it. They earned their redemption over Kansas City. And then once they've done that, the real work begins in trying to run it back, trying to gain that repeat, going back to back. So then they got to rebuild, retool on how to get to that point. One of the first things I got to do, though, is finding the replacement for Kellen Moore because Kellen Moore, the offensive coordinator, is probably going to stay in New Orleans because, well, he is reportedly supposed to be the new head coach of the New Orleans Saints. So Nick Sirianni is going to have to waste no time. Once they do all the parades and all that jazz, he's going to have to waste no time on finding the new offensive coordinator for Jalen Hurts. And then in terms of free agency, you got to attempt to re-sign the key defensive players like Josh Sweat, Zach Bond, Milton Williams, the three of the four key defensive line guys that pretty much got you that Super Bowl. And then, of course, one of your reserve corners, Avonte Maddox. So a lot of key decisions that have to be made for a defense that was very pivotal in that Super Bowl win over Kansas City. So a lot of decisions to be made for both teams coming up real soon. But when you look at the season as a whole for the NFL, it was pretty predictable. It was pretty predictable because you and pretty much everyone out there, we were all just waiting until the inevitable, until we heard that four-worded mantra that I gave the Kansas City Chiefs came to fruition back in July, which was like 6, 7, 8 months ago. I gave them when I did my team previews for them. And, well, like I said, it was eat, sleep, conquer, the repeat. Except here we sit now. The Philadelphia Eagles pulled a Cody Rhodes, rewrote the story, and pretty much booked themselves into their own ending and made shit unpredictable while making a new ending to this past season and made themselves the champions of the world. So overall, when you look at this past season, we'll look at it as a season that will be remembered as a predictable path with an unpredictable finish for a team that everyone expected to get it done, except, well, the Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't get it done. They couldn't get it done when, well, everyone expected them to. So, I don't know if I guess I will say congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of defying expectations. Defying expectations, rewriting the story, and changing the mantra I set for the entire NFL back in July. That new mantra, that new tagline being, eat, sleep, killed the three-peat. So the Kansas City Chiefs, at least for them, they no longer have that pressure of trying to go for a three-peat. Now they can focus on trying to get back a Super Bowl title. But for now, the Philadelphia Eagles, the target's on their back of trying to defend and go back-to-back as Super Bowl champions. Overall, this season, it was eh. But at least we got an unpredictable finish to the season. But now, we move forward to a brand new season that starts now. That officially starts in 7 months' time. But until then, what we'll all be watching, I certainly don't know. I mean, there's crappy wrestling. There's crappy pro wrestling, but how often I'll be watching that, I don't know. But what will you be watching while you wait for the NFL to return? What will you be doing? What hobbies will you be picking up? I would certainly like to know in the comments on YouTube, or slide into the DMs on social at Very Cold Lasagna. But yeah, the season is officially over. The Philadelphia Eagles are your world champions, the champions of Super Bowl 59. And, well, that's a wrap on another NFL season. Not just in general, but here on Very Cold Lasagna. But we'll be putting an official bow on this 2024 season with our team recaps. Our team recaps coming up in a couple of weeks, recapping all 31 teams and their 2024 campaigns. What went right? What went wrong? We'll be doing that relatively soon, all throughout the month of March, and I can't wait for that. Going through all their seasons, and well, what's to come throughout their off season. So should be a lot of fun. Should be a lot of fun talking about them again, and yeah, I hope you all are ready for that too. But until then, thank you for tuning into this episode of Very Cold Lasagna, talking about the Super Bowl 59, a unpredictable finish to a predictable season. But yeah, the Eagles are your Super Bowl champion, and yeah, it's time for me to stop rambling about this Super Bowl. But anyway, again, that is it for this episode of Very Cold Lasagna. I am your filthy casual host, Dylan Lasagna, signing out of another episode number 251 of this icy yet spicy podcast for all your filthy casual takes on the world of sports, for you filthy casual fans out there like you and me. And until the next one, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge with your takes on the world of sports. For watching this on YouTube, make sure you have those notifications on and follow me on social media for the latest on the upcoming set of episodes for the podcast or anything in general. And until I see ya, when I see ya in the next episode of Very Cold Lasagna, peace out.